This one isn't that important in my opinion, but I wanted to talk about it anyway. This is just something I wanted to get out the way. Now, Tulsi Gabbard was a congresswoman, and she was a congresswoman from 2012 to 2020. And at the time, she was affiliated with the Democratic Party. Now, I remember she was backing Bernie Sanders in the primaries for 2016, and then later on, there was there was some speculation as to whether she voted for Jill Stein in the general election, but there was something from the Huffington Post at the time that said that she, you know, willingly yet more likely hesitantly, voted for Hillary. Fast forward to 2020. Of course, she runs that year, and she drops out around the same time that most of the other candidates dropped out, and she endorsed Biden. Now, keep in mind, let me just give you a little bit of where I was at on all this, and I'm sure most of you can already guess. Most people already know I vote blue no matter who. So yeah, I voted for Obama twice. I've supported him twice. I voted for Hillary in 2016. Of course, 2020 comes along. I vote, Bernie that primary, and then Biden for the general, and then 2024 it's Harris. So look, I remember having this debate with Hillary supporters in 2019, 2020. Now keep in mind, I was backing Hillary throughout all of 2016. And I said, hey, I don't think she's going to run again. But if she did run in 2020, I was like, yeah, I'll vote her again. Now, here's what I ran into. I remember people saying at the time that Hillary supporters were saying that she was a Republican. People kept saying, oh, she's all but a Republican. And she's a right winger. And she's with Russia and all that stuff. And remember, at the time, I was arguing with Clinton supporters. I said, look, guys, you and I voted for the same candidate in 2016. I didn't see any evidence to support that at the given time. Because when I look at Tulsi's 2020 campaign, and keep in mind, I actually met Tulsi in 2018. She was in the western part of Michigan, like northwestern part of Michigan. I went up there. There was this gathering, all that stuff. And I got to be honest with you, this was right before she officially announced that she was going to run for 2020. And I was actually considering voting for her in that primary. Then, of course, we had 25 other candidates jump in, and it was just a crowded mess. And it's like, oh. When I look at her 2020 campaign, here's the things that she ran on. On the foreign policy, non interventionism. She emphasized ending the regime change wars and reducing U.S. military involvement abroad. She frequently criticized the America's role in conflicts such as those in Iraq, Syria, and Libya. Okay, rightfully so. Opposition to nuclear arms race, focus on diplomacy, on healthcare. She supported the idea of Medicare for all. She expressed support for universal healthcare and initially backed Medicare for all, but later voiced openness to alternative approaches such as a public option, which is what people on the left support, that people on the right oppose. Climate change and environment. She supported ambitious climate action, but did not explicitly endorse the Green New Deal as drafted by other progressive Democrats. Investments in renewable energy. She supported transitioning the U.S. economy to 100% renewable energy by 2035. Criminal justice reform. She advocated for ending private prisons and cash bail. She supported the legalization and decriminalization of marijuana at the federal level. She called for reform of mandatory minimum sentencing laws. Economic policy. She supported workers' rights. She supported the idea of $15 minimum wage. She supported the idea of sectoral bargaining, aka collective bargaining, which means that the union negotiates with management to set wages and benefits for workers across an entire industry. Tim Walz did that in Minnesota for the nursing home workers, and Gavin Newsom did the same thing in California for healthcare workers. I think there was another group too. Let's see. On the social issues, keep in mind, before all this, I mean, in her younger years, she was obviously right wing because she had opposition to same sex marriage and opposition to LGBT rights and all that stuff. And then later she reversed that and she supported that. She supported the idea of Roe v. Wade being into federal law. As far as gun control, she supported universal background checks and banning military style assault weapons. She emphasized the need for responsible gun ownership and safety measures. She opposed things like the TPP, the Trans Pacific Partnership, which was a thing that was similar to both NAFTA as well as the United States Mexico Canada Agreement. NAFTA was under Clinton, TPP was under Obama, USMCA was under Trump. They all ended up outsourcing jobs, and she was opposed to that. And I was right there with her on that one. So, and then of course on education, she didn't talk about it as much, but she did say she supported debt-free college, student loan reform, let's see, universal pre-K and early childhood education, teacher pay and respect. She was talking about, hey, teachers need to get paid more. So just based on those things alone, to me, I didn't understand the argument at the time of people saying she's a Republican, because there's no way that any Republican would back even one of those things that I just listed. Not one. You can't find me one. I mean, definitely not a Mitch McConnell, definitely not a Ted Cruz, definitely not a Lindsey Graham or anybody like that. So here's the problem. And I think I actually lost some Hillary supporters over this. I said, I agree with a lot of the policy that she's talking about, because she's actually basically next to repeating the stuff that Bernie said and the stuff he's been pushing for, and that he still pushes for, by the way. I don't know where the disconnect occurred. I'm not really sure what happened, because in 2020, was it in 2020? Yes, in 2020, that's when Trump got impeached the first time. And she voted present during the impeachment. So that basically means like, hey, I'm not voting yes or no. I'm just voting like I'm here. I never even heard of that before. That vote present. What does that mean? What? Okay, so there was that. Now, of course, again, 2020, she backed Biden. Now, fast forward to 2022, here's where it became more obvious that she wasn't on our side. She backed Trump's right-wing candidates that ran that year. So she backed Carrie Lake, who was the Republican woman who ran in Arizona for governor, and she lost to Democrat Katie Hobbs. I'm pretty sure she came here to Michigan to support Tudor Dixon, who was the Republican that ran against Gretchen Whitmer. And there was a couple other names I can't think of off the top. I want to say she backed Doug Mastriano, who was the Republican who ran in Pennsylvania. He lost to Josh Shapiro. And then Blake Masters, who was a Republican who ran against Mark Kelly in the Senate race, and he lost to Mark Kelly. So she was backing all these MAGA candidates, and then she was also, I don't know if it was right before that or right after that, she released a video that she was talking about she was leaving the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party is filled with corporatists and warmongers and elites. And listen, there's no denial that elitism and warmongering and corporatism exist in both parties. But this is the same woman who used to say that we need to discontinue the quote-unquote Bush-Trump doctrine on foreign policy. Now, sometimes she did put Clinton and Obama's name in that because they did some stuff in foreign policy too, the mess, bombing countries and all that. So essentially, she was of the mindset that both parties were corrupt and that both parties had people in it that poses a major problem. But she said, I'm leaving the Democratic Party because they have warmongers. And Tulsi, what happened to the days that you used to strongly speak against George Bush and Dick Cheney for the Iraq War? And how much you strongly spoke against the presidents after that who continued that war? And Afghanistan. So, and now, what was it, last month or 2 months ago, she officially joined the Republican Party. She spoke at some Republican rally or convention, and she had endorsed Trump and said earlier this year, we need to help Trump and get him in office, and we got to help him with his agenda. Well, Tulsi, part of his agenda is continuing a lot of the stuff that Bush and some of the other presidents did, which you said was bad. I mean, Trump outsourced more jobs in 4 years than Obama did in 8. Now, he didn't outsource as many as Bush did. Bush outsourced a ridiculous amount, so I think Bush was worse when it came to the jobs. You know, Bush outsourced over 646,000 jobs over 8 years. Obama did about 87 or 88,000 over 8 years, and Trump did 212,000 over 4 years. So I'm not really sure what what makes her not call that out. Why has she softened up on Trump? Now, a lot of people will give me the obvious answer. They'll say, "See, we told you it was Russia." Well, even if Russia wasn't involved, I'm still trying to figure out who here. I want to know the exact point that changed her mind because she changed her mind. I don't know who paid her. I don't know who gave her money. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was Trump. I don't know if it was one of the Koch brothers. I don't know if it was the Elon Musk. I'm not really sure what happened there. But I say all that to say this. My message to Hillary Clinton supporters that I've debated with over this in the last few years or the years before that. Well, it turns out that now at this particular point, you're right. Because she did a complete 180. And like I said, I couldn't make that argument at the time of 2020 and before 2020. I couldn't say she was a Republican or that she was a right winger because all those list of policies and ideas and the issues and the stuff that she ran on the left side of it. Debt-free college, Medicare for all that stuff that is strongly supported by the left and strongly opposed by the right and argued in 100 different ways amongst the moderates and the centrists and all that. So it's like, I don't know. But you know what? That's the path that she chose. And listen, I don't hate her for it. It's just, I mean, I don't know. And you know what the sad part about it is? At the time, I would have loved to have seen somebody like her for president, which is why I said I almost voted for her in early in 2020 when that came along, and I think she was the first candidate to announce. She was either the first or maybe the second, but I know the first few was like her and Bernie, and then it was like Elizabeth Warren, and then it was Harris, and then of course you had the other 21 people jump in: Pete Buttigieg, Cory Booker, Kirsten Gillibrand, like all these people, and it's just like this was too many people. But I was like, hey, to my Hillary supporters, I guess I was wrong. I guess, and now you have the Republicans propping her up and saying, oh, well, if we have our first woman president, it might be her. Assuming that it's not going to be Marjorie Greene or Lauren Boebert or somebody like that, Marsha Blackburn, whatever female name you list on the Republican side. So I'm just like, I don't know. And I guess my message to, I don't know how many politicians are going to see this, but my message to all politicians, whether you call yourself a Democrat, you call yourself a Republican or centrist, whatever, listen, whatever you feel like you're at, just go to that thing and just be honest about it and be open and be real and just own it. Now, yes, you're going to receive some criticism and you're going to receive some flack, but guess what? This is politics. There's going to be flack and criticism all over. Every single politician is going to take flack or criticism or whatever for something, whether it be rightfully or wrongfully. So if you are, and that's why I said Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema might as well just call themselves Republicans at this point. Why? Because they shot down most of the stuff that Biden tried to put through, or even the stuff that Biden did manage to get through. They voted against half of that. So, and if Tulsi Gabbard were in the Congress right now, and if she was either a congressperson or a senator now, she probably would have voted the same way as Manchin and Sinema. So, you know what? Here's the other obvious thing. I mean, grifting, lying, being a fraud, all that. I mean, it's kind of disappointing. I mean, when I see stuff like that from people on the actual Republican side, I just look at that and say, well, yeah, of course that's to be expected because, I mean, look at them. That's them. You know, Mitch McConnell said that Trump is unfit to be president and he can't stand him. But then he votes against convicting him, and of course he endorses him in 2024, and now he says Trump's a bad guy and all this stuff. You know, I remember like when Lindsey Graham in 2016, he was saying all the same stuff that we said about Trump at the time, and we still say. He called him a racist, he called him a sexist, he called him a jackass, he called him a xenophobe and bigot and all this stuff. And here he is, and he supported him every election that he ran in. I look at that side and I say, yeah, that's to be expected. Let the wolves fight, let the wolves scatter and just do whatever. But when I see somebody on the Democrat side who runs on genuine left-wing policy and ideas, it's just more disappointing and more sad to see them go from that to endorsing that side. So I'm surprised by now Tulsi hasn't said that George Bush was a good president or that Dick Cheney was, a good vice president. And here's another thing I want to add too. I have a feeling that the main reason that one of the main reasons why people on the liberal side said that Tulsi was a Republican was simply because of her rivalry and catfight with Hillary. To which I say, look, I think it would be unfair to say that she's a Republican just based on that alone, because by that same logic, that's like saying that Dick Cheney's a Democrat just because he now opposes Trump, even though he voted for Trump twice in the past. So I can't just go on to something like that. But now that she took the more blatantly obvious step, now that she actually came out and said, I'm leaving the Democrats to join the Republicans and now I'm backing Trump and I'm going to back Carrie Lake and Tudor Dixon, maybe possibly Ron DeSantis in the future. Now I'm backing them. Okay, well, now I can say, okay, then the claim of her being a Republican is no longer a claim because now it's a fact. So I'm telling you, politics, man, it does stuff to people, and one thing it's done is it's definitely exhausted and stressed the hell out of me. So, but guys, like I said, I'm not letting this ruin anything, and like I said, I don't care. That's the path that she chose, and hey, let her stay there. And whenever we do have our first woman president, hopefully it won't be her because now she went back against all those things that she talked about. She would have been against what Netanyahu is doing, and now she's defending that. Again, scary times we're living in. It's some scary stuff. But like I said, in my next few videos, I got many other stuff to cover. I got who I think the candidates and nominees will be for 2028. Of course, there's some celebrity stories regarding Selena Gomez and Sydney Sweeney and them going after body shamers. Me talking about the cast of Scream 7. Some movie reviews. I'm going to talk about the Taken movies, the Fast and Furious movies, all that good stuff. So I just wanted to get that out the way. So subscribe to my YouTube. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. All my info is in the About section for all of my links. Go to the link, go to the About section. All my contact info is there. Number, email, all that stuff. So that's that. And stay tuned.